Hi, welcome to the introduction video to History of Theater 1 online. I'm Carl Graneri, I'm the instructor. You can tell because I'm wearing the blazer. Theater History 1 is, as I'm sure you imagine, a history survey course that takes us from the origins of the form, the known origins of the form in ancient North Africa, through the golden Greek age of drama that ultimately formed most of the European tradition, the South Asian tradition and Japanese traditions, and then follows the emergence of a variety of Renaissance forms in the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries in a variety of European countries, culminating ultimately with the ascent of French neoclassicism at the turn of the 18th century. What I'd like to do today is to go through the primary course documents for the class, so that you have a better sense of what the class is asking of you, and you're real clear about what the deadlines are and what the expectations are. All right, so the first thing we want to do is go through the syllabus. I'm going to start at the top, I'll read each section, and then I'll explain anything that isn't self-evident, okay? So here's my contact information. There's my email address and my phone number. I'm generally available between 9 and 9. If you call me during those hours and I don't pick up, I will call you back in the same day, okay? Let's go to course description and objectives. Some of this is a rehash, bear with me. History of Theater 1 examines the development of various forms of world drama from the time of its known origins in Egyptian antiquity through the end of European neoclassicism at the end of the 18th century. Tracking the development of both the dramatic and literary forms, as well as various practical aspects of theater production that include presentation, acting styles, audience culture, architecture, customs of the theater, and the contributions of its outstanding artists. Our course seeks to contextualize the evolution of the art form culturally and socio-politically. Our aim will be to reconstruct the evolution of classical playmaking and to integrate our understanding of classical drama into that of history, society, and philosophy. Upon completion of Theater History 1, students should be able to identify historically significant works of classical theater, to delineate among important theatrical epochs, and to situate key aesthetic movements within their broader moment in time. Fairly self-explanatory, right? Ultimately, the goal of this course is to take the development of theater and contextualize it in world events. How is the theater in dialogue with what's happening socio-politically? How is the outside world influencing formal developments inside our art form? Okay, let's go to the next one. Requirements. History of Theater 1 is a reading-intensive course by its nature, and is made more so by the compressed online summer session. Each week of the term covers about 40 pages of reading and one full-length play. It should be noted that the primary text for the course includes many half, full, or double-page images that reduce that page count significantly. Chapter 1, for instance, is 48 pages in length, but only 25 pages are made up of text. Without classroom or transit time, students are expected to digest all of the assigned material as thoroughly as possible, and to demonstrate that thoroughness with cogent analysis that uses play readings in conjunction with the textbook. While not formally listed as a writing-intensive class, the online format means that much of our course interaction for History of Theater 1 is compositional. Tackling more than 4,000 years of performance history in 6 weeks is no small undertaking, so be warned that you may find the class time-consuming, and plan accordingly. Because of the online nature of the course, students accept responsibility to maintain web access throughout the 6 weeks of the term. I recommend that students give thought to backup options for internet access and make arrangements with friends and family in case your primary access of home, work, or mobile fails you. When a deadline comes and goes, it's come and gone, no partial points are awarded for late submissions. I want to point out that last point most especially, which is that make sure you have a backup internet access in case you have to submit something, right? Make sure everything that you write, make sure that you save it to some sort of drive so that you can quickly take it and plug it in somewhere else so it gets in on time. If something catastrophic happens, obviously, I'm not a monster, I will be happy to make accommodations for something catastrophic, but in general, your work has to be in on time. Yes, there's a lot of reading in our course. 40 pages is a lot per week. As I say, it's not quite that much, in fact, because the textbook I'm using this semester has a lot more pictures and a lot less text, right? But because we're covering 4,000 years of theater history, and because we only have 6 classes together, you have to do the reading on your own so that you're prepared when the lecture comes to be able to engage with it, so it isn't new material from scratch, okay? All right, next one. Format. Communication for this course is conducted primarily through the Blackboard, which I always abbreviate BB, making particular use of the Discussion Board tab, the WebEx virtual meeting platform, and the Announcements tab, with announcement duplicates transmitted to everyone enrolled in the course by email. At least 2 opportunities will be provided for a WebEx virtual meeting during the term. Those meetings are currently scheduled for weeks 2 and 5, though more could be added to the calendar based on student interest. I will offer recorded lectures on a weekly basis covering selected topics, which will be made available through Blackboard every Friday. Links to other presentations and primary sources may also be employed. A thread in the discussion board tab will be dedicated to running Q&A on the basis of the lectures, and real-time discussion of content will be possible through WebEx. Okay, so the primary interface for this class obviously is Blackboard. Every time I create an announcement, I will send an email duplicate to you so you don't have to check the announcements every day. I'll make sure they come to you in your email. The majority of our discussion and dialogue happens through the discussion board tab, and to a certain extent through the WebEx virtual classroom platform. We'll talk about that in a second. Short timed quizzes of 15 minutes in multiple choice and fill-in-the-blank format will be held on each Monday of the session, with the exception of Monday, May 20th, the first day of classes. In fact, there's a second exception, which is the second Monday. The second Monday of the class, we will actually not be having, that's the 27th, we won't be having a quiz because it's Memorial Day. So we'll have it on Tuesday instead. These quizzes will be drawn from the weekly online lectures, the play selections, and the assigned readings from the textbook. The weekly quiz will be available for access through Blackboard for a full 24-hour period, midnight to midnight. So what that means is I will put the quizzes up at midnight Sunday, and you will have until midnight Monday to complete the quiz. The quizzes are primarily intended to provide students with an opportunity to demonstrate engagement with the course content. The lowest quiz grade of the term is dropped. The course features one midterm and one final. The midterm is held on Tuesday, June 11th, and mimics the format of the quizzes. The final will be held on Tuesday, July 2nd, in the same format as the midterm. All right. So that's what you have to worry about. When are the quizzes? They're always on Monday, with the exception of next week's, which is on Tuesday. When are the tests? We have a midterm on June 11th, and we have a final on Tuesday, July 2nd. All right. On to the study guide project. The remarkable scope of History Theater 1 is rivaled only by the very short period of time we have to cover all the content. It would be impossible for anyone to acquire a penetrating knowledge of 4 millennia of dramatic style, form, and practice in only 6 short weeks of study. Instead, the course seeks to supply a broad range of historical knowledge through readings and group interaction, while cultivating an individual expertise of sorts in one particular area of interest. Pooling our collective efforts in exploring those interests, we're going to seek to transform our shared virtual space on Blackboard into a study resource for the final exam. So the class is broken up into 3 round-robin groups, each of which make contributions to the study guide project twice during the term. So the goal of the project is to help your fellow students clarify and narrow the focus to only those few things in your area of expertise that you believe are most indispensable to us in the theatrical area we're covering that week. You draw our attention to these linchpin elements by fleshing them out in significant detail and expanding our understanding of them in a way that transcends what we could get by reading the textbook or by Googling the subject quickly. Okay? These submissions take the place of a research presentation in a regular classroom, and they have 2 components, 2 requirements. First, you need to have handouts, right? The written portion of the work, which should be geared for use in studying for the final exam. Now, for our purposes here, bullet points are better than prose, and pictures, when appropriate, are always better than bullet points. Providing links to easy-to-use resources of images and clips that elucidate the important innovations you're pointing out to us is a very welcome choice. Don't make the job more difficult by linking to the, scholarly, sprawling articles, right? I'm already weighing you down with enough reading, right? Make it easy, make it simple. This is an exercise in efficiency and illumination, so choose wisely. Make it count. Make it easy to use for the exam. The second component of the assignment is a short video, a presentation, which should feature you walking us through the material that you've culled, walking us through the material that you've selected. The format for that is wide open, but engaging is always better than dull, and you could narrate over a PowerPoint, or you could speak to us in a direct address like I'm doing now. It doesn't need to be especially flashy or sexy. It doesn't need to be particularly long. 5 minutes is plenty. But it does need to guide us through what you've compiled and help us to understand what to pay attention to. So on a weekly basis, if you are assigned in a particular week, the deadline for the study guide project submissions is always Sunday night. And if you want to get credit for that week's discussion board, which we're about to talk about, the deadline for that is always Sunday night, all right, at midnight. Let's talk about the discussion board. Discussion board entries and replies. I always abbreviate discussion board DB. In each of the 6 weeks of the term, I will offer writing prompts relating to the current readings assigned through Blackboard. Students have to post 2 thoughtful, well-constructed, and grammatically correct entries to the discussion board in response to the questions that I make available throughout the course of the term. 1 entry should be made in the first 3 weeks of the course. 1 entry should be made in the last 3 weeks of the course. Discussion board entries should be in mini essay form of 3 to 4 short paragraphs. You should probably have a thesis, and you probably want to quote from the reading somewhere. Students must also read the entries of their fellows and offer substantial reply to at least 2 posts throughout our semester. In like fashion, 1 reply should come in the first 3 weeks of the course and 1 in the last 3 weeks of the course. Those seeking credit for a discussion board reply should post their work by Wednesday that follows the original entry. So the entries are due on Sunday. Your response will be due by the following Wednesday. The responses should move the ball forward in some significant way by challenging, clarifying, or sharpening the original entry. Discussion board replies can be free-form and extemporaneous, rather than formal, right, the way the actual entries are supposed to be. But they're in dialogue with the original, by which the analysis, the facts, the conclusions are accepted and disputed or redefined. The more engaging and thoughtful and exciting your replies are, the higher your grade is. That's basically the only rubric. DB replies may be posted in 2 formats, by video submission or by writing a response. But if you choose to do it through a video, you get double the points if the work is good. All right. Then I'm going to skip over the disability disclosure statement. If you have a disability and you need to speak with me, email me privately and we'll make arrangements. Grading breakdown. So you'll receive 20 points of your total grade for your 2 submissions to the study guide project. Each one is worth 10% of your grade. For the discussion board entries, you'll receive a total of 16%. Each of those is worth 8% of your grades. For your video replies, hopefully, right, you'll receive 8%. But if you decide to do written, instead, you'll get 4%. Your quizzes are worth 20% of your overall grade. That'll come from 5 quizzes that get graded and 1 that gets dropped, right? Your midterm is worth 20% and your final exam is worth 20%. So it's not possible to fail this class on the basis of what happens in your final exam or your midterm. If you're doing the work all the way along, you should be fine, right? You can really only fail the class if you tank all of the work in all regards, right? Okay, let's look at the texts. Readings for our course are excerpted from the History of Theater by Oscar G. Brockett and the Oxford Illustrated History of Theater, which is edited by John Russell Brown. The Brockett selection will be provided to the students electronically. The Oxford text has to be purchased at either the bookstore on the university main campus or through the usual reputable online outlets. Most of the plays to be read and discussed in the course are available in complete form online. Links are provided by the instructor. Plays that are not available online are provided in PDF format via Blackboard. So if you've looked around a little bit on the Blackboard site, you know that I've already supplied you with all of the plays except for one, Tartuffe, which I haven't scanned yet, but I will quickly. This is the textbook for the class. This is the Oxford Illustrated History of Theater that's edited by Russell Brown. You should be able to get this either at the bookstore or get it online. As I've said, I recommend you getting it online because usually it's cheaper. And I've already sent you the Brockett, and hopefully you've already begun that reading. So that's all you have to worry about in terms of texts. It should cost you about $200 to take the class in terms of texts. All right. Then there's a list of important dates that are related generally to the summer session. When does our class begin? It already has. When's the last day you can drop? When's the midterm? And when does the term end? All right, so that's it for the syllabus. Why don't we switch over to the course calendar and take a look at that?